What I'm about to tell you happened to Madison Foster, an 18-year-old high school senior from Westfield, California. Madison thought she was just having fun with her friends, playing what she called harmless pranks on other students. She had no idea that her cruelty was feeding something ancient and hungry, something that had been watching her from the shadows, growing stronger with every act of malice. By the time Madison realized what she had unleashed, it was almost too late. The entity didn't just want her to hurt others anymore. It wanted to consume her completely. And when her own father became a target of the very cruelty she had created, Madison discovered that some games you can't stop playing, even when they're destroying everyone you love. This is Madison's story. And if you think high school drama can't attract genuine evil, you're about to learn otherwise. Madison Foster ruled Westfield High School with perfect blonde hair, designer clothes, and ruthless charisma. At 18, she had everything a high school girl could want. But beneath the surface lay a desperate insecurity that drove her to maintain power at any cost. She led the Four, herself, Kimberly, Jessica, and Ashley, controlling their school's social ecosystem with surgical precision. Their lunch table in the center of the cafeteria might as well have been a throne from which Madison surveyed her kingdom and planned her next moves. Madison's comfortable middle-class family had one embarrassing secret that ate at her daily. Her father worked as head janitor at Westfield High School, while other students' parents were doctors, lawyers, and business executives. Madison's father, Mr. Foster, mopped floors and emptied trash cans in the very hallways where she reigned supreme. She had kept this hidden from her friends through careful lies and strategic avoidance, scheduling her social activities around his work shifts and pretending not to see him when their paths crossed at school. "It's not that I'm ashamed," Madison would tell herself, watching her father empty trash cans while she pretended to be absorbed in her phone. "It's just complicated." Her mother, Linda Foster, worked as a real estate agent and was obsessed with appearances and social climbing. She constantly pushed Madison toward activities that would look good on college applications or enhance their family's reputation in their suburban Westfield neighborhood. "Your father works very hard for this family," her mother would remind Madison whenever she asked for money for another designer outfit or expensive social event. "The least you can do is make something of yourself and justify his sacrifices." Mr. Foster himself was a quiet, hard-working man with calloused hands and tired eyes who pulled double shifts to afford Madison's lifestyle. He never complained about the long hours or the physical demands of his job, but Madison could see the exhaustion in his face when he came home each evening. The guilt Madison should have felt was buried beneath layers of social anxiety and desperation to maintain her status. She had internalized her mother's pressure into a desperate need to be perfect, to be untouchable, to be worthy of the expensive life her father's labor provided. And that need came at the expense of other students who stood in her way. Madison rationalized their cruelty as social experiments. The Four would orchestrate elaborate campaigns from their prime cafeteria table, targeting unpopular students with surgical precision. They perfected the fake rumor system, like claiming Bethany Morrison had confessed her love to Jake Henderson and been publicly humiliated when nothing had happened at all. Within hours, the lie spread through Instagram and Snapchat like wildfire. Madison became expert at fake friendship betrayals. She would approach lonely students with overwhelming kindness, building their trust over weeks, then orchestrating devastating public rejections at parties where maximum humiliation could be achieved. "Sorry, Sarah," Madison had told Sarah Chen at Kimberly's pool party in front of 30 students. "We thought you understood this was just..." Charity work? We can't actually be friends with someone who shops at Target. Madison watched Sarah's face crumble and felt a rush of power. The other students looked uncomfortable, but none challenged her. They were too afraid of becoming her next target. The four also sabotaged academic partnerships, abandoned group projects, and created anonymous Instagram accounts to mock students' fashion choices. Madison justified everything as teaching real-world lessons and maintaining natural social order. But she was always searching for something more, something that would make her truly untouchable. Madison first noticed the shadow on a Tuesday afternoon in late October. She was sitting in the parking lot after school, waiting for Ashley to finish drama club rehearsal, scrolling through Instagram to see how many likes her latest post had received. In her peripheral vision, she caught sight of something dark moving between the cars. When she looked up, there was nothing there. Probably just another student, Madison muttered. But something about the movement had seemed wrong, too fluid, too quick. That night, as Madison lay in bed planning her next social campaign against Rebecca Torres, a junior who had dared to wear the same dress as Madison to homecoming, she heard a whisper. "You could do so much more." Madison sat up in bed, her heart racing. "Mom? Dad?" Silence. She convinced herself it was just the wind or maybe the neighbor's television through the thin walls. But deep down, something stirred with anticipation. The whispers came again the next evening, clearer this time. Why limit yourself to embarrassment? Why not destruction? Madison found herself leaning forward in her bed, straining to hear more. "You have power, Madison. Real power. But you're wasting it on children's games." "Who are you?" Madison whispered into the darkness. "I'm someone who appreciates talent when I see it. Someone who can help you reach your full potential." The voice was neither male nor female, but something else entirely. It seemed to come from the shadows themselves, as if darkness had learned to speak. "What do you mean, potential?" Madison asked. "Those little games you play, they're nothing compared to what you could accomplish. Real damage, real control, real power over the lives of others." Madison should have been terrified. Any rational person would have been. But instead, she felt intrigued, flattered. Someone finally understood that her social manipulations weren't just teenage drama. They were art. "Show me," Madison whispered. The shadow in the corner of her room seemed to deepen, and Madison felt a presence move closer to her bed. "Tomorrow," the voice promised, "we begin your real education." The next morning, Madison woke up feeling different, more focused, more hungry. During English class, she studied her classmates with new eyes, seeing not people, but opportunities for destruction. David Kim sat 2 rows ahead of her, frantically taking notes. Madison knew David was applying for early admission to Stanford, and that his entire family's expectations rested on his academic success. She also knew, because she made it her business to know everyone's weaknesses, that David had been seeing the school counselor for anxiety attacks. Why settle for academic sabotage? The voice whispered in her mind. Why not destroy his future entirely? Madison smiled coldly. After class, she approached David with her most concerned expression. "David, I'm really worried about you," she said, gently touching his arm. "Yesterday, I overheard you talking to yourself in the bathroom. You seemed really upset. Are you okay?" David's face went pale. What? No, I wasn't. I mean, I might have been just thinking out loud, but..." "It's okay," Madison said soothingly. "Mental health is so important. You shouldn't be embarrassed about getting help." That afternoon, Madison carefully crafted a series of anonymous reports to the school administration. She claimed that David Kim had been exhibiting concerning behavioral changes, including talking to himself, angry outbursts, and threats toward other students. She suggested that his stress over college applications might be causing a dangerous psychological break. The reports were subtle, believable, and devastating. Within a week, David was pulled from his advanced placement classes for mandatory psychological evaluations. His college applications were delayed. His parents were contacted. His future was derailed. Madison watched David's growing panic and confusion with cold satisfaction. This was so much more effective than her previous methods. "Excellent work," the voice praised that night. "Now you understand real power." "I do," Madison agreed, feeling intoxicated by her success. "What's next?" The lessons escalated rapidly. Madison learned to plant stolen items in innocent students' lockers, then tip off security about suspicious behavior. She discovered how to create fake drug evidence, getting targets suspended and arrested. She mastered the art of destroying local businesses that her targets' families owned through coordinated fake review campaigns and false health department complaints. Madison became expert at academic fraud accusations. She would steal answer keys, plant them in rivals' belongings, then report them for cheating. Innocent students found themselves expelled, their college dreams shattered, their reputations destroyed. Each success brought the voice closer, made its presence stronger in her life. Madison began to crave its approval like a drug, checking in with it constantly for new ideas and validation. "You're my most promising student," it told her. "With your help, we can reshape this entire town. Make them all pay for every slight, every rejection, every moment they failed to recognize your superiority." Madison felt powerful in a way she had never experienced. She wasn't just popular anymore. She was feared. Students would cross hallways to avoid her gaze. Teachers gave her better grades rather than risk becoming targets of her mysterious influence. Even her own friends had grown nervous around her, sensing the darkness that now radiated from their former leader. But Madison didn't care about their fear. She had found her true calling, and nothing would stop her from pursuing it. 3 weeks into her education, Madison targeted scholarship competitors. The voice suggested eliminating competition entirely through fake social media profiles showing rivals engaged in racist or offensive behavior. Madison's first target was Maria Santos, a brilliant student whose family had immigrated from Mexico. Madison created fabricated text conversations showing Maria making disparaging comments about other ethnic groups, then submitted screenshots to Maria's target colleges. Within days, Maria received rejection letters from universities that had previously shown strong interest. Madison watched Maria cry in the guidance counselor's office and felt pure triumph. "Beautiful work," the voice praised. "Now let's discuss your father." Madison froze. "What about my father?" "He's been such an embarrassment. What if we could eliminate that shame entirely? One simple accusation about inappropriate behavior with female students. His reputation destroyed, his job lost." Madison felt sick. This was her father, the man who worked double shifts for her clothes, who had taught her to ride a bike. But the voice was right. He was embarrassing. "I need time to think," Madison whispered. "Real power requires real sacrifices," the voice said smoothly. "Are you ready?" The next day, Madison made her decision. She would let Jessica do the reporting to maintain deniability. "Jessica, there's this janitor, Mr. Foster, and I've noticed him acting weird around younger girls," Madison said carefully. "Like lingering in hallways, trying to look into the locker room." Jessica's eyes widened. "That's gross. We should report him." Madison provided carefully crafted details: suspicious locations, inappropriate behaviors, potential victims. That afternoon, Jessica filed a detailed report with the administration about Mr. Foster's alleged misconduct. Madison went home feeling victorious. Soon, her embarrassment would be eliminated. Excellent progress, the voice praised. You're almost ready for the final lesson. As her father was called into meetings with administrators, as he came home each evening looking more worried and confused than the last. I don't understand what's happening, he told Madison's mother over dinner one night, his voice heavy with bewilderment. They're saying I've been acting inappropriately towards students, but I don't even interact with students except to clean around them. I keep my head down, do my job, and go home. I've been doing this for 15 years without a single complaint. Madison avoided eye contact, focusing intently on her phone while her parents talked. Could someone have misinterpreted something you did? Her mother asked, her voice tight with worry. Maybe taken something innocent out of context. I don't see how, Mr. Foster said sadly. I'm careful to maintain professional boundaries. I don't even speak to the students unless they speak to me first, and even then, I keep it brief. I don't know what I could have done to give anyone the wrong impression. The guilt Madison expected to feel never came. Instead, she felt only cold anticipation for her father's inevitable termination and the end of her social embarrassment. But then, on Thursday afternoon, as Madison sat in the school parking lot waiting for Ashley's debate team practice to end, someone knocked on her car window. Madison looked up to see a man in his 30s standing beside her car. He wore a simple baseball cap pulled low over his face, and his clothes were unremarkable, jeans and a dark jacket. But there was something about his presence that made Madison immediately uncomfortable. He radiated a quiet authority that seemed to cut through all her carefully constructed defenses. She rolled down her window halfway, her hand poised over the door lock button. "Can I help you?" she asked, trying to inject her usual confidence into her voice. "Actually, Madison, I think I can help you," the man said quietly. His voice was calm, but carried an undertone of deep concern that made Madison straighten in her seat. "Do I know you?" Madison asked, her heart beginning to race. "Not yet, but I know you. I know what you've been doing, and I know what's been helping you do it." Madison's blood ran cold. No one knew about the voice, about the entity that had been guiding her actions. She had been so careful, so subtle in her manipulations. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice shook despite her efforts to remain composed. The man smiled, but it wasn't a cruel smile or even a knowing one. It was sad, almost pitying, as if he were looking at someone who was already lost but still worth saving. "Madison, you're in serious danger," he continued gently. "The entity that's been whispering to you, guiding your actions, teaching you new ways to hurt people, it's not your friend. It's not making you powerful. It's consuming you, piece by piece, taking away everything that makes you human." "You're crazy," Madison said, but even as she spoke, she could feel the truth of his words resonating somewhere deep inside her. "Look at yourself honestly," the man continued, his voice never rising, but somehow carrying more authority than any shout could have managed. 3 weeks ago, your worst crime was spreading gossip and excluding people from parties. Now you're destroying innocent people's lives, framing students for crimes they didn't commit, and you just arranged for your own father, the man who works double shifts to afford your lifestyle, to be falsely accused of predatory behavior. Madison's hand moved to her car's door lock. "I don't know who you are, but you need to leave me alone." "Madison, evil doesn't give people power. It takes power from them." Every cruel act you've committed has fed this entity and made you more dependent on its approval. You're not more powerful than you were a month ago. You're less human. That's not true, Madison protested. But even as she said it, she realized she couldn't remember the last time she had felt genuine happiness, or love, or even basic empathy for another person. The entity feeds on cruelty, the man explained. It finds people with the capacity for influence and corrupts them, using them to spread pain and destruction. But here's what it doesn't tell its victims. Once it's drained all the humanity from them, once they're no longer useful, it discards them, usually by arranging for them to be destroyed by the very cruelty they've been spreading. Madison thought about the voice's recent suggestions, how it had been pushing her toward more and more extreme acts, how it had wanted her to destroy her own father. Think about it, Madison, the man continued. What do you think happens when all these false accusations and destroyed lives eventually get traced back to you? What do you think happens when people discover that you've been orchestrating all of this pain? The entity will abandon you to face the consequences alone. Why should I believe you? Madison whispered. Because I've seen this before, many times, and because, unlike the entity, I'm not asking you to hurt anyone. I'm asking you to stop. The man reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, smooth stone. This belonged to someone else who was in your situation. She chose to fight back before it was too late. The stone will help you see the entity for what it really is, and it will protect you when you try to break free. Madison stared at the stone. It was small and unremarkable, but something about it felt clean, pure. What do I have to do? She asked. Go home tonight. Call off the investigation into your father. Tell Jessica you were mistaken, that you misunderstood what you saw. Then, when the entity comes to you, tell it you're done. Be prepared for it to fight back. It won't let go of you easily. Madison took the stone. It felt warm in her palm. Who are you? She asked. But when she looked up, the man was gone. Madison drove home in a daze, the stone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. For the first time in weeks, her mind felt quieter. The constant whisper of suggestions and approval was still there, but it seemed fainter, less insistent, as if something was interfering with the signal. As soon as she got home, Madison called Jessica, her heart pounding as she prepared to dismantle the lie that could destroy her father's life. Jessica, about that report you filed about Mr. Foster, I think I made a terrible mistake. What do you mean? Jessica asked, confusion evident in her voice. I think I misinterpreted what I saw. Like maybe he was just doing his job and I was looking for problems that weren't there because I've been so stressed about college applications. Could you call the administration tomorrow and tell them you want to withdraw the complaint? Madison, are you serious? What if he really is a predator and we're letting him get away with it? Madison closed her eyes, gripping the stone tighter. She could feel its warmth spreading through her palm, and with it came a clarity she hadn't experienced in weeks. I'm serious, Jessica. I was wrong. I let my imagination and my stress get the better of me. Please just call them tomorrow and withdraw it. Tell them we realized we misunderstood what we saw. Jessica eventually agreed, though she sounded confused and concerned about Madison's sudden change of heart. That night, Madison lay in bed waiting for the voice. The stone rested on her nightstand, and she could swear it was giving off a faint, warm glow in the darkness. She didn't have to wait long for the entity to respond to her betrayal. That was a mistake, Madison. The voice was colder than she had ever heard it, carrying an edge of genuine anger that made the temperature in her room seem to drop several degrees. Maybe, Madison said quietly, surprised by her own calm. Or maybe I'm just tired of playing games that hurt innocent people. The shadows in her room seemed to deepen and move, reaching toward her bed like grasping fingers. Games? You think this is a game? The voice was no longer bothering to sound friendly or encouraging. You have real power now, genuine influence over people's lives. You can shape your entire world according to your will, eliminate anyone who stands in your way, punish everyone who has ever slighted you. And you want to throw that away for what? Guilt? Conscience? Weakness? I want to throw it away because it's not really power, Madison said, sitting up in bed and reaching for the stone. The moment her fingers closed around it, she felt a surge of warmth and strength. It's just destruction, and I'm tired of destroying things. I'm tired of being the kind of person who hurts others for sport. The temperature in the room plummeted until Madison could see her breath in the air. Ice began to form on her windows, and the shadows grew darker and more aggressive. You ungrateful little fool, the entity snarled, its true nature now fully revealed. Do you think you can just walk away from me? Do you think you can use what I have taught you, become what I've made you, and then discard me when it becomes inconvenient? Madison felt terror wash over her in waves, but she forced herself to speak through the fear. Yes, I think I can. And I think you're scared that I'm right. The shadows in her room began to move more aggressively, reaching toward her bed like grasping claws. Madison could see shapes forming in the darkness, twisted, hungry things that wanted nothing more than to drag her down into the void with them. You are mine, the entity hissed, and now Madison could see its true form beginning to manifest in her room. It wasn't the helpful shadow it had pretended to be, but something ancient and ravenous, with eyes like burning coals and a mouth full of too many teeth. Every cruel act, every destroyed life, every moment of pain you've caused has bound you to me. You belong to the darkness now. There is no escape. No, Madison said firmly, holding the stone up between herself and the creature. I belong to myself. I choose who I am and who I want to be. The stone began to glow with a soft, warm light that seemed to burn the shadows around it. The entity recoiled as if physically struck, its form wavering in the growing radiance. The entity's true form began to manifest in Madison's room. Not the helpful shadow it had pretended to be, but something ancient and hungry, with eyes like burning coals and a mouth full of too many teeth. You cannot escape me, it roared. I have fed on your cruelty for weeks. I am strong now, stronger than your pathetic little light. The entity lunged toward Madison, but the stone's glow intensified. Madison felt a warmth spread through her chest, not the cold satisfaction she had grown accustomed to, but something genuine and clean. You're right that you fed on my cruelty, Madison said, standing up to face the creature. But you know what? I'm not cruel by nature. I was just lost and scared and trying so hard to be perfect that I forgot how to be human. The light from the stone grew brighter, and Madison realized it wasn't just coming from the stone anymore. It was coming from her. Every person I hurt, every life I damaged, that wasn't power. That was just fear. Fear that I wasn't good enough, wasn't important enough, wasn't worthy of love unless I could control other people. The entity writhed in the light, its form becoming less solid. But I am worthy, Madison continued. Not because I can destroy people, but because I can choose not to. Because I can choose to build instead of tear down, to help instead of harm. You are nothing without me, the entity shrieked, making one final desperate lunge toward Madison. Maybe, Madison said calmly. But I'd rather be nothing than be what I became with you. The light filled the entire room, and the entity's screams faded into nothing. When Madison's vision cleared, she was alone in her bedroom, holding a simple stone that no longer glowed. But the warmth in her chest remained. The next morning, Madison woke up feeling like herself for the first time in weeks. The constant whisper of cruel suggestions was gone, replaced by her own thoughts, her own conscience. Madison went to school with a purpose. She had damage to undo. She started with David Kim, approaching him in the library. "David, I need to tell you something," Madison said quietly. "I'm the reason you got pulled from your classes. I filed false reports claiming you were having psychological problems. It was me." David stared in shock. Madison spent the hour explaining everything and giving him written statements to clear his name. She systematically contacted college admissions offices to retract false reports about Maria Santos and other students, confessed to fake social media campaigns, and apologized to every targeted student. Not everyone forgave her. Many students and families were too hurt, their trust too broken. Madison understood and accepted their anger. But she discovered something unexpected. Repairing damage felt better than causing it had. Each person she helped added to the warmth in her chest instead of the cold satisfaction she had grown addicted to. Madison also apologized to her father about the false report and for being embarrassed by his work. "Dad, I'm proud of you," she said as they sat on their porch. "You work harder than anyone, and you do it for our family. I'm sorry I made you feel like that wasn't enough." 3 weeks later, walking through the parking lot, Madison saw the familiar figure in the baseball cap. He smiled and nodded, a gesture of approval. Madison smiled back and walked toward him, full of questions about what had happened and how he had known to help her. But another student walked between them, and when her view cleared, the man was gone. "Madison?" David Kim approached, carrying college application materials. "I wanted to thank you. Stanford accepted me yesterday." Madison smiled genuinely. "David, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you." As they talked about his college plans, Madison felt the warmth in her chest grow stronger. This feeling, the satisfaction of helping instead of hurting, was the real power she had been searching for. Later, she could have sworn she saw the guardian under a streetlight at the parking lot's far end. When she blinked, he was gone again. But Madison understood it didn't matter whether she could see him. When she had needed help choosing between darkness and light, someone had been there to remind her that she had a choice. And every day since, Madison continued to choose the light. Madison graduated 6 months later. She didn't get into her first-choice college. Her grades had suffered during her corruption, and disciplinary actions remained on her record. But she earned her acceptance honestly. She spent senior year creating an anti-bullying program and volunteering at her father's weekend job at a local nursing home. She slowly rebuilt some damaged friendships, though many remained broken beyond repair. The entity never returned. Madison kept the stone as a reminder that even when darkness seems overwhelming, there are always people willing to help you find the light. And sometimes late at night while studying or volunteering, Madison could swear she felt someone watching over her. Not with malice, but with quiet approval. She never saw the guardian again. But she never forgot his lesson. Real power isn't the ability to destroy others, but the courage to build yourself into someone worthy of the light.